Good afternoon, and welcome to today's Corporate Insight webinar, The Retention Revolution, Digital Strategies for Small Commercial Insurers. My name is Justin Suter. I'm a insurance research manager here at Corporate Insight, and I'm very excited to share some insights about how digital transformation can be a massive competitive advantage for small commercial carriers. Before we dive in too deep, let me frame the central challenge that we're going to try and address today. First, customer expectations for digital experiences continue to rise, and they are set primarily by brands with digital design budgets that dwarf those of small commercial insurance companies. Plus, the B2B2C nature of this industry adds another layer of complexity, and it forces carriers to design experiences that serve both agents and business owners effectively. So the key question we're going to strive to answer today is, how can carriers build engaging digital portals for business owners to boost satisfaction, drive engagement, and build value without cutting agents out of the loop? But here's our roadmap for the duration of the webinar. We'll start with a quick introduction for CI and our methodology. Then we'll set the stage by examining key market shifts that are putting the digital experience in the spotlight even more than it already was. Then we'll analyze the current digital landscape, drawing from Corporate Insight's recent landscape analysis report. And lastly, we'll identify some of the biggest opportunities for how carriers can stand out and differentiate themselves in this space. Lastly, we'll conclude with plenty of time for your questions. So speaking of questions, please, you can submit those at any point in the webinar through the chat feature, and I will do my best to answer them all during the Q&A segment. If I don't get to your question, we'll certainly follow up via email afterwards. So for those of you who may be new to Corporate Insight, we've been connecting firsthand customer insights with industry expertise since 1992. So researching the digital experience for as long as digital experiences have been available. Our clients are leading financial services, insurance, healthcare firms, and we provide them with a host of competitive intelligence and research services to empower them to build best-in-class digital experiences for their customers. Our services span 5 key areas. First, our Monitor research services, which of course includes Commercial Insurance Monitor that we're featuring today. Second, Experience Benchmarks, which provide comprehensive annual studies with quantitative scorecards and strategic recommendations. We also offer 3 customized services: custom research projects, UX research, and quantitative research, all of which are designed to provide tailored insights for your company to drive business growth. Our methodology is straightforward but powerful. We are your customer and your competitors' customers and many other firms' customers. And our analysts, so people like me and my team, we're reviewing user journeys on these firms' websites and mobile apps constantly, day in and day out, which gives us unparalleled insights into what the customer experience actually looks like and feels like behind the login. For Commercial Insurance Monitor specifically, we track 19 carriers, including leading incumbents like Chubb, Hartford, and Travelers, alongside emerging insurtechs like Next, Thimble, Simply Business. We're going to be assessing strategy and positioning, conducting digital comparative analysis, provide live multi-platform coverage across errors and omissions, commercial property, general liability, workers' comp, and business owners' policies within the small commercial landscape. All right, so now everyone's been introduced to our services, we can really start to dig into the reason that we're all here today. As I mentioned to begin with, we're going to look at some of the contributing factors to the current reality that small commercials are facing today. Starting with the fact that we're in the midst of a substantial generational shift in business ownership that has profound retention implications. Just looking at the composition of small business owners by generation, quickly see that baby boomers dropped 7 percentage points compared to 2024. Gen X is virtually now half of all business owners at 49%. So when you take Gen X and millennials, that's 70% of small business owners. many of which are now digital natives. And as digital natives overtake business ownership, quality online experiences aren't just nice to have, they're expected. These business owners are bringing same digital expectations that they have from personal apps and services into their interactions with their insurance carrier. At the same time, we're also seeing some dynamic shifts in coverage adoption. Specifically, the fact that coverage rates have increased significantly. Now, 92% of small businesses have some type of insurance, which is up 20% since 2023. So encouraging numbers for carriers. But the critical insight here is that despite the rising coverage numbers, a large confidence gap persists. An overwhelming majority of 87% of business owners still feel less than fully prepared to face risks to their business. And many of these risks are insurable risks. So the lack of confidence and preparedness connects to a massive knowledge gap present among small business owners. So we see that in this survey, 83% of business owners could not correctly describe what a GL policy covers, and 71% did not accurately understand what a BOP covers. So these are core pieces of their insurance policies that they are less than fully cognizant of. And this knowledge gap represents a critical opportunity for insurance carriers to differentiate through education-focused digital experiences, because business owners want and need to understand their protection, and currently there's a dearth of tools and resources that allow them to do so. So the knowledge gap, confidence gap is translating directly into the bottom line in terms of the retention challenges that carriers are facing in this space. Only 55% of customers say that they definitely will renew with their current insurer, which is down 6 percentage points from just a year ago. So we're moving towards almost 50-50 chance on whether a customer is going to renew. But there's some encouraging data as well. First, that service trumps price. 16% of surveyed business owners cite service experience as the top retention driver. So that's above price, above coverage, above reputation. Additionally, premium transparency is paramount. Pretty wild to consider that customer satisfaction is identical if a premium goes up and the carrier explains that well to if the premium didn't go up at all. So if increases are well explained, that's a top retention driver. Lastly, also encouraging that understanding drives loyalty. So speaking to that knowledge gap, that understanding gap, a carrier that can really empower a business owner to understand their protection is going to curate a loyal customer. So just to sum up quickly, right, we're looking at this demographic shift coupled with a knowledge gap, coupled with a knowledge crisis, coupled with loyalty, which is a lot of coupling, I know. All of this builds into the fact that there's a clear opportunity for carriers who deliver an intuitive digital experience that's going to be educating and engaging business owners to really stand out from the pack in what is a very fractured space. So a carrier that starts to separate itself can really pile up easy wins quickly. So if this is the context, what is the current landscape look like? What do some of these current platforms have for business owners right now? But before we dive into that too much, I want to refresh everyone on Jacob's Law, which coming from UX guru Jacob Nelson, is perfectly going to illustrate the challenge that carriers face. And that's that users spend most of their time, you could argue the majority of their time, on sites that are not their business insurance. Right? So we're talking entertainment platforms like Netflix, TikTok, Instagram, search results, of course, of Google continues to be the gold standard. They're shopping on Amazon or booking travel from Airbnb, ordering food from DoorDash, and they're depending on mega financial institutions, right? Bank of America or Schwab just being two examples of that. So these are the brands and the sites and the apps that set the standard for what a good digital experience looks and feels like. And then they're going to log into their commercial insurance portal, where they're probably, from what we've seen, definitely going to encounter something much more basic. A list of policy numbers, the coverage period, billing information, ability to make a payment, simple bullet point menus, lists of information, This is going to be a very stark contrast and something that business owners will notice right away. The good news is that there's some areas where policyholder portals do well. And commercial insurance carriers have certainly nailed some of the basics. First and foremost, these carriers have clearly recognized that one of the most common reasons for a user to log in is to make a payment or ensure that a payment is posted or ensure that their policy is paid in full. And their platforms are well constructed to communicate billing status and payment capabilities and options. Most carriers in our report have dedicated prominent homepage real estate to billing and coverage information. So we see examples on the screen from Chubb and Country Financial. Chubb has a number of different tiles right on the homepage when a user logs in, and the first tile on the left, because of course most users will read from left to right, is billing and payments. Country Financial devotes a huge amount of that homepage real estate to a billing tile, and this is very indicative of what we see throughout the coverage set. Another area where commercial lines portals generally excel is providing a well-curated customer experience within the document center. So documents also, of course, a very important piece of an insurance policy, and users are going to be navigating to these centralized locations to look for different types of related documents. And the Hartford is what we're calling out right here, allow users to quickly get to the document they need through different filter options, drop-down menus, sortable table, and of course, the Hartford's also promoting the ability to generate a certificate of insurance online. Which leads me smoothly into my next point, in that another part of these sites that are well constructed and currently curating towards users' key needs is that carriers are recognizing that certificate of insurance generation is critical for relationship. As we see from Forbes, the ease of doing business can supersede premium affordability as a key building block to long-term carrier-insured relationships. And the ability to quickly generate COI online is a pivotal aspect of that quote-unquote ease of doing business with a carrier. So again, we see a number of insurers devoting homepage real estate to in the form of quick links or promotional tiles to communicating to business owners immediately when they log in that, hey, you can go generate a COI. And we also see these processes to be largely seamless, 1, 2, at most 3 steps, at which point the business owner can send the generated COI to a vendor or save it for their records. So as we've talked about, there are some pieces of these websites that are well constructed and well designed, but there's definitely some gaps. And the first area that we've identified as a major gap is that few carriers are providing substantial policy coverage informations. A lot of commercial lines portals have minimal information beyond simple policy number, policy type, coverage period. So picking on West Bend a little bit here, but it is certainly not alone in its framework for designing what the policy summary page will look like. But in this case, we see it's just listing the policy number, policy type, and coverage period. It does link out to the declarations document. So if users want more policy information, they have to go download that declarations document. And if you've ever done so, they're not always the most intuitive documents to go through when you're looking for a specific nugget about a policy. And this is, on one hand, understandable given policy complexity, and that it'd be difficult to start to try to communicate all the different ins and outs of these policies online. But it's certainly a missed opportunity to educate business owners and put their minds at ease, because as we've seen, they are concerned with that, hey, this is what your policy looks like, and this is how it is protecting you. Commercial insurance carriers also lag when it comes to self-service capabilities for policy management. Already noted that many carriers do allow for COI generation online, which is great. But beyond that, only Flip, The Hartford, Next, and Thimble currently enable business owners to make other policy changes online. So the other 15 carriers that we looked at in our report are requiring users to instead submit forms or contact their agents or call the carriers directly. And this has the potential to create friction during critical business moments when perhaps they need to make a change or at least see how a change might play out. So carriers that invest in online policy change capabilities can really position themselves as innovators in this space at the moment. One example of a bright spot is Next Insurance. We're looking at its coverage customization page on the screen here. This allows users to adjust limits and deductibles from drop-down menus. So you see that called out number 1. They can also use sliders called out number 2 to opt in or opt out of optional coverages. And then down at the bottom of the page with the third call out, they can hit the check price button, which is going to load a light box that summarizes what changes they have applied and how those changes will impact their premium. On the personal line side of the insurance industry, this is an area that CI has been tracking for over 13 years, and we're starting to see some more sophisticated approaches that perhaps carriers can carry over to the commercial lines side of the business. One of the best examples that we've seen is from Nationwide. This is a snapshot of a very extensive page from the personal auto portal, the Your Coverages section. It has dedicated expandable sections for every coverage type of the policy. So this screenshot, we're just looking at an expanded vision of the collision coverage summary. You can see it tells them what their deductible it is. It tells them in the top right what the individual impact on their premium amount of this specific coverage type is. It defines it. It offers some digestible nuggets, what it does, how it works, and then what about this coverage. And then they can even adjust the deductibles from this same page as well. I'm sorry, the same section on the page as well. So a high level of self-service and interactive capabilities from Nationwide on a personal auto policy. One more example from the personal line sphere. This is Liberty Mutual. They go even further with a coverage analysis tool. This allows users to select hypothetical scenarios, such as I was driving and I hit a parked car, and immediately see how their policy will protect them under that scenario. So you can quickly see how this would be perfect for a business owner that has concerns. Like, oh, what would happen if, I'm a restaurant and my basement floods? Well, it'd be great to be able to demonstrate, as Liberty Mutual can, well, you'd be partially covered in that scenario because you have this coverage, but you're missing this coverage. So this kind of interactive education builds confidence, builds understanding, and it can even act as an upsell agent because, as you can see from those view your price buttons on all the way to the right of these different screenshots from Liberty Mutual, it's a very smooth transition from this coverage analysis tool to add more coverages online. We're talking a lot about account information and policy coverages, and just wanted to surface some data to emphasize that this aligns with what we know users value most. Our recent brokerage survey shows that account information dominates user priorities. Six of the top 10, I should say, most important features relate to account information. Account balance information is at the top at 92%. Key account information on the home page comes in at 86%. This is a top 2-box analysis, by the way. And we also see that users prioritize core information and ease of use over advanced tools. So the chart is showing you the top 10 most important brokerage website features, color-coded by different categories to let you get a sense at a glance of which categories are important. So one final area, it's a little bit of a different discussion point, where carriers are falling short is when it comes to risk mitigation resources. So we're still under the education umbrella, so to speak, but attacking it from a different angle. While several carriers provide a lot of educational content, some of which even in really well-constructed microsites, few promote it prominently on the standard pages within a portal, and few also surface it on multiple different spots. Travelers is the rare example, and in fact, the only carrier we looked at that promotes this type of education, risk mitigation content directly on the homepage. And that's the screenshot that we're looking at now. This is the risk control section of the Travelers homepage. You can see in the callouts, it has different tabs recommended for you. So this is based on what Travelers knows about the individual business owner, their business type, the industry that they're in. And then favorites, because users can also favorite certain resources for quick, easy access in the future. You can also see in the top right that they can click on that update option to change the industry that Travelers has their business classified as. So if they want to see resources from a different industry on the homepage, they can make that change themselves. So beyond just the fact that Travelers has this content on the homepage, Travelers also has a dedicated main navigation menu link. It's the same name, Risk Control. And when you click that main navigation menu link, it's going to take you to their dedicated risk control site. So these resources are excellent and they're well promoted, which is a combination, as I said, that we didn't see from any other carrier reviewed in our set. So again, a quick summary from this section. Currently, commercial lines carriers are taking a minimum table stakes approach. They can excel at billing, excel at payments, excel at document centers and certificate of insurance creation, but they're missing opportunities for deeper engagement with business owners, whether that's through clarifying coverages, trying to help minimize the knowledge gap that we've seen exists. And how do you meet basic needs beyond, as we said, COI and payments? And we also are looking at that self-service tools are just rare and educational resources are under-promoted. So there is a lot of low-hanging fruit that carriers can address to make their portals much more of an engagement tactic and resonate much more with business owners. So now we're going to talk about 3 opportunities that we've identified for carriers. First, just saying, why is this important? What have we seen from user behavior and user preferences for what these types of digital tools can create for the firms that host them on their portals? Also, why will they work well and why have we seen them work well in some of the other industries that Corporate Insight tracks? Commercial line carriers can implement planning tools, add these types of tools to their portals. Corporate Insight's recent digital advice investor survey documented substantial growing interest in goal tracking. In this year's survey, nearly half of respondents consider this content extremely important. So that's on the 5-point rating scale. And that's a quite significant 15% increase in importance from 2023. So 2 years later now, we're at this high level importance among investors when it comes to goal tracking. And we've seen that strong multi-goal planning capabilities help investors account for milestones, prioritize different goals, and understand how different goals can be interdependent. Similarly, tools supporting business growth planning could successfully foster engagement and help business owners gain confidence and feel comfortable in where they're at. So think about succession planning tools, expansion calculators, seasonal cash flow planning, major purpose preparation, all different forward-looking capabilities that we know business owners are grappling with that could transform an insurance portal from a reactive billing center into a proactive partnership platform. So on the screen, know there's a lot going on those screenshots. These are Wealthfront's Path tool, just 2 screenshots of what is a very robust tool that CI feels shines for its innovative input options, dynamic projections, and clear explanations. The tool impressively weaves impact assessments into its interface to help investors determine how an individual goal may or may not impede the progress of other goals that they've set up. It also offers support resources during the goal creation process to help investors set more realistic expectations for what they're trying to accomplish. The tool positions retirement as a quote-unquote ultimate goal, so it alerts investors when changes to smaller priority goals may compromise their progress towards their retirement goal. And the analysis is very sophisticated and it subtly nudges investors to consider what they've already established as their top priorities as they're trying to develop a investment plan. And we feel it does this without overwhelming them with too much information. Second major recommendation is tailor portals to reflect the business size or business type. From what we've seen currently, commercial insurance portals are quite generic across product type and business industry. But we all know that every business faces unique risks. A restaurant's challenges are going to differ quite dramatically from a consulting company or a salon or a construction firm. But most portals are delivering identical experiences, right? So we looked over at the health insurance space, and that's an area where we're really starting to see insurers providing member-specific recommendations based on what that insurer knows about the individual's health history, past appointments, upcoming appointments, any relevant wellness programs they may or may not be enrolled in. So commercial insurers can similarly provide personalized business-specific risk guidance, industry-relevant educational content. So we already saw that's something that Travelers is doing, or customized coverage recommendations based on what they know about an individual and their business. Insurers with members site pages that house rotating action items provide a consistent source of activities and advice for health plan members to integrate into their daily lives. So some examples include Anthem Blue Cross Blue Shield or Horizon Blue, which both offer personalized recommendations based on members' personal health records. The screenshot that we're looking at on the screen now is from Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota, which has 3 different tabs here. You see insurance, health, and then we're looking at the Your Recommendations tab at the moment. And Blue Cross Blue Shield of Minnesota members can complete a health assessment, which then allows them to sort results into things to work on, items to consider, on-track habits, and the insurer uses data from multiple sources to provide tailored recommendations. So that's what we're seeing on the screen here. Third major opportunity that we've identified is incorporating life events into portals. Life events related content often resonates strongly with users because it addresses fundamental psychological and practical needs during significant transitions. That's the very definition, right? It's a life event. These tools provide structure and clarity during uncertain periods, which can really help reduce anxiety when people are dealing with major changes in their lives. So for small business owners, life events are particularly relevant because, again, we're talking about succession planning, retirement, selling their business, bringing on a partner, offloading a partner, dealing with the departure of a key employee. All of these are major milestones in a business life cycle. And it represents a significant opportunity for carriers to demonstrate value beyond, as we've talked about, the traditional policy features. And this can really allow them to position themselves as a trusted advisor during a customer's most important life transitions. And when you reach that status, that trusted advisor status, right, then you have a loyal customer, then you have that auto renew customer that is going to be singing your praises until they retire and maybe beyond. So the example that we're calling out here is from the brokerage space, where Merrill Edge stands out for its centralized prepare for life events page on the authenticated portal. It's organized around 4 areas: work, family and relationships, home, cards and other large purchases, and health and aging. So it's 4 areas, lots of N's in there, so it may have sounded like more, but it is 4. And each category expands into a curated set of tiles that link out to articles, checklists, and related tools. The content is visually distinct, as I said, centrally located, and clearly grouped by the different life scenarios. The Edge client portal also includes a whole suite of calculators and tools. Some of them are findable within this section. Others are findable within a dedicated tools and calculator section that has different categories as well: retirement, investing, college planning, and personal finance. So once more, to sum up from this section, here's how I would recommend prioritizing these opportunities as the industry strives to address this retention struggle. First and foremost, it's how can carriers help mitigate this knowledge crisis? We need to understand how to translate complex business policy coverages into digestible, interactive formats that build confidence and ultimately lead to higher retention numbers. Next, there's a clear opportunity to start to leverage the potential of personalization. How are industry leaders or how are other leaders outside of the insurance industry customizing experiences based on what they know about the individual? So in this case, that would be business type, size, and industry would be the three easiest options to start to really tailor the experience to the end user. Then we need to learn from planning tools that we've already seen drive engagement. Firms in the wealth management and retirement spaces have seen significant success with goal-setting features, and I think it's a straightforward way to adapt them for business planning. And then last, maybe that's where carriers can start to capitalize on integrating life events when it comes to succession planning and business lifecycle resources to create those deeper relationships with business owners that every carrier desires. So to wrap up the wrap-up, we've talked about a lot in the past 30 minutes. But first, it's important to remember that the demographic shift means that digital excellence is not just a nice to have anymore. It's an essential tool for retention as more and more digital natives take over business ownership. Second, we've seen that despite the fact that the coverage numbers are going up, there's still a massive knowledge gap that creates both a big risk, but also a big opportunity for insurance carriers because business owners want to understand their protection. They need to be armed with better resources to do so. Third, we see declining retention numbers, but I feel like carriers can really reverse this trend because at the moment, there's not much out there to help users, as we've seen, fully understand their policy. And the data is really strong, right? We saw that a carrier that demonstrates that it fully understands a customer's business, we see a 37% point improvement in renewal intent when a customer feels that carrier understands their business. So the opportunity is clear. Carriers that deliver an intuitive digital experience that educates and engages business owners will capture market share in the fractured commercial line space. So one final reminder before we get to the Q&A. I already saw this slide earlier, but I wanted to resurface it, a reminder of all the information that I share today is really just a taste of what is available with a subscription to Corporate Insight's brand new commercial insurance monitor. Right? You have, as we talked about, a deep dive access into all of these insurers on the screen here, as well as out of industry insights similar to the ones that I shared in the opportunity section from any of the different 21 verticals that Corporate Insight currently monitors on a daily basis. So now we're at the Q&A section. I'd love to hear your questions and how some of these insights may or may not have resonated with you and the current challenges that you're facing. So I'll start to take questions now. All right, first question is, how do you find the panelists that you work with? Yeah, excellent question. Didn't want to dive too much to that in the methodology section at the top. But Corporate Insight has developed its own panel that we have developed strong relationships with. And we grow that from two different ways. One is continued referrals from our existing panelists. So we find that a lot of our panelists are best recruiters. So when we're starting to launch something new, like we did with Commercial Insurance Monitor, we went to our panel and we said, hey, do you have a business or do you know anyone with a small business? And we got some great referrals with them. We also work with third-party recruiters that find individuals for us that we can add to our existing panel. So it's a two-pronged approach on that front. But regardless, it ends up being a very close relationship because we're hopping on screen shares with these individuals and they're really walking us through the policy. And that's how we're able to get that behind the login access for all those excellent screenshots that we saw on the screen. How have you seen digital adoption best practices across carriers? Yeah, so I think that the digital adoption piece comes in where, my mind goes, I mentioned all the research that Corporate Insight's done on the personal line side. It's how have carriers carried over some of those innovations that we see on personal lines first onto the commercial line side. And we definitely see that on the billing pieces. There's a few carriers where we're lucky enough to have both policies on commercial lines and personal lines where we're able to see that they're really using the same payment platform for both. Other areas where we're seeing those best practices carry over is around profile management. There's been a huge emphasis within the insurance industry as a whole recently on security, thanks to the law in New York State set to go into effect in just over a month now, right, mandating MFA. And a lot of carriers have carried over some best practices from other industries around MFA that's been in place a little bit longer to help them set up and reassure business owners that their account is secure. How are leading commercial insurers using digital capabilities to gain a competitive edge? And what specific innovations do you see becoming industry standards in the next few years? I guess a short answer would be that there's not a lot of, I think we're using the term innovation here a little bit loosely, but I think that the carriers that start to really be able to personalize the experience to the business owner, that's going to be what really resonates with a user. So someone logs in and it's not about, greeting someone by name, right? That's not the personalization we're talking about. It's recognizing that this is an owner of a bakery, that they have a brick and mortar location, they have 5 employees, and they have this type of coverage. And we also know that, hey, they would love to expand to a second location in the future. And bringing all of that knowledge about this individual business owner into the digital experience, that's going to really move the needle. And that's going to be what sets an individual carrier apart from the rest of the pack. So we assume this presentation is more about direct sales channel. Do you have any research or thoughts on how digital adoption impacts the independent agency channel, which is heavily used for commercial channel, and the agents will be using the portal more than the actual policyholder? Fantastic point. And you're certainly correct in that this presentation has been focused on the end user as the business owner. What does the business owner see when they log in? And of course, the agent plays a huge piece in this. But I would argue that as we're seeing more and more business owners are looking to be able to at least log in and see something. So even if the agent needs to be the one that makes the changes, and this is also something we see in personal lines, right? There's a number of carriers that go through independent agents. And so, for example, a firm like Safeco, which is going through an independent agent under the Liberty Mutual umbrella, Safeco has set up a way for a user to see, this is what it would cost if I want to add a driver, right? They can't actually add that driver online. They need to go contact their agent and say, hey, I'm adding a driver to my policy. But there's a customer journey online for the user to at least see, hey, this is what it would cost if I was going to do this. So that's not something that we really see on the commercial lines portals right now, but it's a way, there's plenty of room for insurers to experiment around allowing the business owner to get more information themselves and not be completely dependent on the agent. Want to be respectful of everyone's time, and we're coming right up on the 45-minute mark. So thank you to everyone who joined. And if I didn't get to your question, my apologies. As I noted at the top, we'll follow up via email. And also reminder that the deck and the recording will be sent out to all registrants on Monday. So if you missed some of it or you had to think of another question, please reach out. My contact information is on the screen. You can also book a demo of the Commercial Insurance Monitor with our fantastic team of account executives, and look forward to continuing the conversation on LinkedIn as well. So thank you again for everyone who attended, and have a wonderful afternoon.